Hello, everybody. If the ball starts moving, the camera will follow. That's an old saying my grandpa used to tell me. Look at that 3D render of a GameCube controller. Wait, let me see if I can find it. Where do they put it? If I move the camera, it disappears. I'm gonna zoom in on it. Hold on. If I slow the camera movement, I wanted to 3D print this object. It's a GameCube analog stick with an A button on the back. Alright. We're about to do the damn thing. If you fall off, you'll lose a life. So this is Super Monkey Ball 1. Ooh, the menu music's so different. I'm more used to Monkey Ball 2. That's alright. We're gonna go into normal mode. Ain't no story mode in this. It's just a straight up arcade game. That's kind of great. Alright, let's do beginner while we wait for people to trickle in. So one thing you might have noticed in my YouTube video is the announcer, whenever I use a clip of the game, so you can hear the announcer voice, he's way louder in my video than he is in the game. In the game, he's mixed extremely quietly. You hear how quiet the goal is compared to the music? Or his ready go is very quiet compared to the music. So I had to find the original sound files. Oh, I should turn on the widescreen hack. Hold on. Uh-oh. I did not like that I hit view stage just now. There's a little secret down there. So I want to go get this secret, but I also want to see what levels like 3 through 6 are, because I never get to see them. Let me hop into Dolphin and turn on the widescreen hack, though. But anyways, I had to take the original sound files of the announcer voice and line them up with where they are in game, just so it would sound loud enough that you could even hear it, because it's so quiet in this game for some reason. Alright, let me go into graphics widescreen hack. Now we're cooking. That looks real good. There we go. Now my monkey's shaped like a ball. It's not Super Monkey Oval. Yeah, that's a good looking game. I used mostly footage from Super Monkey Ball 2 in my video. Caroline says, I got my boyfriend Monkey Ball 2 for his GameCube for Christmas. It's all he was talking about for the longest time. I'm so excited for him to get it and get to relive his childhood. Hell yeah, he's gonna love that. That's a great gift. Oh, is the bitrate being janky? Let me hop into the settings here. I should be streaming at a real high bitrate. Let me turn off this feature that adjusts the bitrate. How does it look? You guys tell me. I want to get a wider sample size. How does this stream look right now? Fuck, is that true? MZ Paul just said they wanted to remake Monkey Ball 1 and 2, but due to how many people were needed for Yakuza 7, the shrunken team was forced to remake Banana Blitz. That is the worst thing I've ever heard. Elijah, thank you for the super chat. Yeah, today is Banana Blitz launch day on PC, and I don't really care for that game. I've got I posted on Twitter like a month ago that I have 2 ideas for Monkey Ball videos. One of them was good and one of them was evil. And the one I uploaded this weekend, that was the good one. Thoughts on Banana Blitz HD? I don't care for it. It's so funny, like, I didn't love Banana Blitz at the time. I kind of consider it the beginning of the end for Monkey Ball. But I decided to go into Banana Blitz HD with, like, an open mind and an open heart. And I downloaded that demo on the Switch, and I just... It made me so angry. It just feels like crap. I really don't like it. I think jumping in a Monkey Ball game is a ludicrous idea. I think characters that have different jump heights, what are you doing? That's not Monkey Ball. Why are there boss battles in it? I'm not a Banana Blitz guy. We can leave it at that. I don't begrudge anyone who likes it, but that shit ain't Monkey Ball. IMHO. All right, let me mess with my settings here. If the video looks chunkified, I can fix that. There's this new feature in Streamlabs that lets you like, you can have it automatically adjust the bitrate. But maybe it's being overly aggressive. Dynamically change bitrate has been turned off. All right. If that fixes it, let me know. If not, I can just stop and start my stream. I'm not, you know, I don't really have a lot of nostalgia for Chibi Robo, John Smith. I played this is weird. I played the first Chibi Robo game, first and only Chibi Robo game I've played was Chibi Robo Photo whatever, the 3DS one, the downloadable 3DS one. Oh good, the video looks better? Great. Well then fuck that feature. That shit's staying off. Any fellow banana splits owners here, says Johnny Blackjock. I found my Vita like 3 weeks ago, and I had a friend who'd been telling me the banana splits was good, and I was like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. And I downloaded it because it's like $5 on PSN. It's actually good. Everyone was right. Banana Splits is a solid ass Monkey Ball game. It's probably the third best. But then again, I feel like I just have Sonic fan syndrome where, you know how Sonic fans think Sonic Generations is good because they have brain damage from 20 years of bad Sonic games? I think that Banana Splits only seems good to me because my benchmark for Monkey Ball, like that bar is on the floor after the way Sega's treated this franchise. Anyways, hot ass Sega takes today. Why the swearing? I'm sorry, I won't cuss anymore. Sorry for cussing. Why dull bananas? Great question. It says it's FZero GX? It shouldn't. I edited it. Yeah, I edited it. It says Super Monkey Ball on my end. I don't know what's up with that. I'll refresh it. But yeah, Dole sponsored this. Sega made a deal with Dole, a deal with the devil. All right, when I go to stream settings and hit edit, it's Super Monkey Ball. I don't know what that FZero guy's talking about. All right. Am I doing a video on Reddit Secret Santa? No. Super Monkey Ball Adventure is the worst one out of all the Monkey Ball games because the audio for Monkey Ball is not only used the first one, but also has no audio for some. Dude, there was somebody, I'm not gonna name names, but somebody in my comments was like, oh, I love Super Monkey Ball. Super Monkey Ball Adventure is my favorite. And I was like, alright. I guess that's legal. But then for Super Monkey Ball Step and Roll, the balance board game, it was sponsored by Chiquita, not Dole. So they changed it up. I think this is the better of the two credits minigames. I think Super Monkey Ball 2 one's not as good. This one's more fun. I gotta dodge these damn letters. The longer the word is, the harder it is to dodge. Man, the description on my end says Monkey Ball. I think I just found a glitch in the, I'm just gonna skip this. Wow, if you hit A, he just puts on the brakes and starts kissing. So that's beginner mode. It's only 10 levels long. I feel hated when I'm here as a Yakuza fan. Yeah, my opinions on Yakuza I can't say in polite company. I mean, whatever. I played Yakuza 0? No, wait. I played Kiwami and I played 6. And I think they're fine. But I also blame them for the death of Monkey Ball, so yeah. I know I have my it's an unpopular take, but would you recommend getting the Monkey Ball game on Switch? No. Don't buy it. I should have just snuck a little PSA in the middle of my Monkey Ball documentary being like, by the way, I know there's a new Monkey Ball game out. Well, you know what? I shouldn't say don't buy it though. Because here's this is a really shitty situation to be in. The truth of the matter is, hey, I got that banana bunch. Like, I kind of hope people do buy Banana Blitz on Switch because it'll help Sega justify making a new Monkey Ball in the future. But you know what they need to do? It's so obvious to me. They need to make a Monkey Ball 3 that is like Sonic Mania, where they just get people from the Monkey Ball community to make the stages. Because they're amazing at that. And Sega hasn't, like, they forgot what Monkey Ball was, like, 15 years ago. Interesting thing about that widescreen hack is you can see the objects unloading and loading on the left side of the screen. Look, the goal is... What was the Evil Monkey Ball game video? I'm still gonna make it, so stay tuned. I can't tell you, though. We'll just make do with Rolled Out for now. Yeah, Rolled Out owns. It's a good game. No, Yakuza 6 is cool. I would rather have more Monkey Ball. Culling. Exactly. My first experience with Monkey Ball was a Chuck E. Cheese arcade machine. I've seen a few people say that. I've gotten some comments that were like, oh, I thought this was just this game that they have at Dave & Buster's or Chuck E. Cheese. So that game is called Super Monkey Ball Ticket Blitz. And it's not... I mean, it's nothing. It's not a real video game. It basically plays itself. Like, the camera's really weird. It's like a downhill... It's like Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam. And the level design is bad. But that's okay. Alright, do I go for the skip? Or do I just do this level the normal way? Let's do the skip. So this level, what you're supposed to do is wait for this thing to get flat and then go towards the goal. But if you turn around here and do this, little secret roll. Oh, are you able to move the camera to check out the next stage that's preloaded above the stage you're currently on? I'll try that on the next one. I mean, I know how that works, but I've never done that, so let's try it. Let's try it on the next stage. This game looks amazing. I love... Like, look at this crazy wobbly ground texture. It's beautiful. How is this a GameCube game from 2001? How many bananas are left? There we go. Alright. There's a lot to really enjoy here. So, oh man, why is II rotating? That's gonna screw me up. I'll just do it on the next level. I need him to be facing forward. You gotta chill. This level, by the way, is a big-ass guitar. Wait, why can't I move the camera? What the heck? Oh, wait, maybe I think I slowed the camera down too much. Ooh, behind the back Monkey Ball. I forgot that you only have a 30-second timer on this level. Ah! Alright. First person. This is more over the shoulder. This is like a Resident Evil 2 camera. Oh shit, I went too fast! Alright. I'll just do it normally. I gotta get through this level and then we can do that funky experiment. Sometimes I disagree with Amusement Vision's choices about which level should have a 30-second timer and which one should have a 60. Hey, whoa, Brian Matt is in the chat. Brian, I should, if you get on Skype, I can add you to the call. If you wanna join in. I don't know what time it is in Japan though. Maybe it's not realistic. Let me see. What time is it? Let me check my watch. It's 6 a.m. in Japan. Oh, you're up early. With your morning coffee. Yeah, let me hold on a second. I'm gonna open up Skype, Brian. If you want to chat, hop on. I'll give you a call. Someone said, Nick, how do you not know what time it is in Japan? You go there every video. I actually have it on my watch. One of my Apple Watch faces is just the time in Japan. Brian, it'll just be a voice call, if that's cool. Oh yeah, I'm gonna run out of lives. Ooh. Oh, I didn't do that right. Okay. Alright. 1 second. We're gonna get Brian. We're gonna get Brian on the call here. Here we go. This is gonna be fun. I'm gonna turn down the game volume. Turn up the desktop volume. There we go. I'm gonna open up Skype here. And we're gonna just chat with Brian. This is not what I thought we were gonna do this morning, but this morning. My brain is in Japan time. Alright. Here we go. Hey Brian, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Oh, you might have to turn off the YouTube video. We're getting a little bit of echo. Can you hear me all right? Uh-oh. The call dropped. Sorry about the volume. I'm trying to adjust. I had to turn the game back up. So I had to turn the game up because Skype turned it down. Alright guys, I fixed it. Bear with me.
Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Brian. How's it going? How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Good. I had to kind of adjust some of my volume settings, so thank you for your patience.
Nope.
How's it going? Thanks for tuning into the stream.
Yeah, this is so random. I was just having my morning coffee and going to the studio for 10 a.m. and just saw this. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. Something live is going on here. So
that's so funny. Yeah, I guess you haven't. I mean, so have you ever played Super Monkey Ball, or has it been sort of a hands-off relationship for the most part?
No, I think at the very beginning, as I mentioned earlier, we got to see all the characters.
Yeah.
And then after that, there were so many games through Sega, and so when I was back, you go back to the Sega studio. It's near Shinagawa, which you know where it is.
Yeah, the Shinagawa Station.
There's like 4 Sega buildings there, and then when we were inside there, it was really bizarre to play a game and then to have your own voice. Back to you. This was like a year or 2 years later, and you brought up Resident Evil as well. These are names that I haven't thought of in years.
Oh, yeah.
So it's quite interesting. Yeah, that was also a fun one to make.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, Resident Evil is one thing that I think a lot of the narration crew from the old days in Japan had in common. Like it didn't make it into the video, but Patrick worked on a Resident Evil game as well. Patrick Harlan did. He did a voice on I don't remember which. It was one of the weird, like, it was not a mainline numbered Resident Evil game, but he worked on those as well. One thing that I wish I'd had more time to talk about in the video was some of the amazing projects that some of y'all worked on. Like, you worked on a game, I don't know if you remember this, called Gitaru Man.
Yes, I do. That was really very, very popular in Japan.
Oh, really?
as well. Yeah.
Oh, Gotaru Man is like a total classic for me. Like one of my favorite games ever. One of the most underrated games ever. So it's really cool that you remember that.
I do. I remember it very, very well. It's funny, these become like cult games, not only in Japan, but I guess around the world. But, particularly in Japan, Monkey Ball or Gitaroman or Shemue or all of these games. I mean, they were insanely huge, and people just loved, talking about them, playing them, and you could walk by Shibuya, where you always stay in Shibuya. You can walk by on the main street and walk by the arcades. And I just remember hearing the voices, and, you're walking from the studio or something, you have a good chuckle just listening to, it's like, wow, my God, I can hear myself, what's going on?
Something we talked about during our first interview was about how I asked if you have the experience of going around Japan and hearing your voice everywhere and your friends' voices everywhere. Like your colleagues are all constantly voices you encounter. Like I know you when we spoke the first time, you had just come from doing some voices for. I mean, actually, is it okay to talk about that stuff? Is it okay to?
Yeah, that's fine. I do the robot restaurant. This is something you should check into, the robot restaurant.
My first time in Japan, I went there with my family, and I excitedly told my parents when you emailed me, because when you did the voices for my video, I told my parents, like, oh my God, Brian, the guy I talked to for my video, he did the robot restaurant narration, and like my whole family went and remembers that. So that's incredible. Like that's one of the most popular tourist attractions, I think, in Japan.
It's huge. I mean, actually, I'm going there tomorrow again. 3:30. I'm going to go to one of the shows. The shows run, I don't know, like every 90 minutes or so. Then they take like a half hour off, and it was really great. I must say, going to the robot restaurant, I went backstage, and you see it's gone from like this really small venue to this massive, like, just costumes and staff. And so we did a recording for Christmas. Exactly the day that we spoke, I ran back from the studio, still had my jacket on, and we were chatting away. And that's exactly the place where I was. I was actually doing recording for Christmas, writing a Santa story. There's a little
little tease for anyone who's in Japan this winter.
Yeah, and so we're doing a Santa story. So tomorrow I'm going to go watch it live at 3:30 tomorrow at the robot restaurant with one of the agents that put this gig together. I think it was oh my God, it's been about 5 years now. Wow. And
does it update pretty regularly?
Yeah, I do recording for the robot restaurant for every season, which is they usually change the show around 6 times a year.
Wow.
And so we add new lines and we add everything at that time. And so this time, of course, is this is the very first year that we've done something that has a Christmas theme to it. And we added like I guess you could say like an old man Santa Father Christmas, I guess would be the best explanation. And put that with robots and dragons and everything else that you can imagine. So yeah, it was good fun. So we'll see how that comes out tomorrow. Then we're going to add something at the studio on next week, Monday, I believe, Monday or Tuesday. I'll find out tomorrow and just see how we can kind of spice it up, because tourism season, it gets really, really busy here at the end of the year. And but they're doing extremely well and very, very busy. So that's kind of a video game, but a live video game. I always enjoy doing that one. So
that's awesome. And you also do voices for the JR train line, right?
Yes, we do. I did that one, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, for JR down in Kyushu and down in Shikoku. And in the southern part of Japan, just the train stops and reminding people to keep their cell phones off while on the train.
I'm certain I've heard your voice without knowing it. Like I know these announcements. I just didn't know the guy making them until now.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. That was a very bizarre recording a couple weeks ago. You walk in and then there's like 7 suits sitting down. Just sitting on the couch, and then they're getting up, and they're just like, JR is huge, as you know, and here's this like 7 reps from JR, and it's like, wow, this is getting really kind of serious here. But no, they just wanted very flat English, and they wanted very flat tone to it, but they wanted the pronunciation of all the stations. So I went through like one of the whole lines going down in Kyushu and Shikoku, and the great thing was I used to work down there on a weekly basis. So it was like, oh my God, I haven't been to that one in about 4 or 5 years now. So it was quite exciting actually to go to hear all the stations again and all the ones they're adding. And since they're getting more tourism down there as well, it was really a fun time. It was really, really actually quite interesting.
Interesting. Emilio Lopez in the chat says, does Brian know Donna Burke?
Yes, Donna Burke's Australian. She's been in Japan for, I think, 30 plus years. Her husband is, I think, is a Kiwi or an Aussie as well. And Donna was a singer prior. Again, I mentioned it. Someone asked me on one of your questions on your video. Thing is, now we used to work so much together. They used to put 4 or 6 of us, 10 of us in the studio at once. I mean, I haven't seen Chris or I haven't seen Patrick for maybe well over a year or maybe 2 years, simply because now we do all of the recording solo. And anything I had last week or this week, I'm the only person in the studio that is actually doing the narration. There's not even an agent with you anymore. Yeah, I'm going to shoot some video for you on Friday. It's not the most exciting gig, but it's still quite interesting. You'll see how the interaction goes between, this is a big real estate company, and I'm doing one of their, I've been a bad boy, I haven't read the script yet. And what it is basically, I know I'll walk in there, there'll probably be about 5 suits there sitting down, and you have the script in front of them, but you'll see the interaction. I'm going to put my camera on and just kind of let you just hear how things go, the interaction between the director, the producer, the sponsor, and so that's all done in Japanese, and then just do the recording in English. So it's real estate, but still, it just gives a whole idea and shows you, how
the breadth of stuff you end up working on is so interesting. Like there's such a wide range of
random. It's just from JR to Father Santa adding it for a bunch of robots. I think Father Santa gets sliced up in the end or slayed by some dragon slayer woman or something like that. But and then you end up doing something to real estate. So yeah, you jump around a lot. That's the great thing. So when you bring up all these memories, the best way I can say it is that we went to a convention in California for narrators. This had to do with I think it was like with Family Guy and with The Simpsons and all these big productions that we don't get over here, that we can only watch on YouTube, of course. And we met a lot of these really big narrators. Funny thing is, they only work 3 or 4 times a year, or 3 or 4 jobs a year. I mean, that's sometimes our daily schedule. So when you're bringing up names, it's like I feel kind of bad that it's like, oh yeah, that. When you kind of put all of these years together, over 20 years of recording and 3 or 4 recordings a day, it's like, oh, that job, and then you try to recall which job it is. And it's very, very it's fascinating, because we never, once we do the job, it's like you're running off to the next studio, and you just, you're on the train, you have the script, and you're correcting things, and you're like, should I do this? Should I do that? And what are they going to expect? And then you get to the studio, then they hand you a totally different script, and then you get to start all over again. And it's quite interesting. But you've brought a lot of good memories.
So one thing that I asked you during our first interview, and I didn't end up including it in the video, but it's a question that I should have realized a lot of people would want to know the answer to. A lot of people are asking why you were not credited in Super Monkey Ball.
I saw that question about 400 times.
Yeah.
After 10 times they're trying to answer. In all honesty, okay, this is being totally honest. We don't have a union here.
Yeah.
We don't get residuals here. And so for the Japanese, it doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing. For them, it's just like, look, this is the game, this is how it's done, and we will call the same narrator because we like to use the same person all the time.
Mhm.
And as far as a credit, there's no actra here or anything like that. And I think
Right.
that's why American is so important for Americans to have this kind of, I want to be credited. I want to be credited because they get credits towards their actor score.
Mm.
Here, there's no actor or anything like that. So for us to be credited, it's like not important as long as the sponsor's happy, as long as the agent's happy, and as long as we did a great recording. That's all that matters. And so that's why we don't ask, and they would probably not even offer it because no one seems to feel that it's important. The most important thing is that did you do a great job? Did you do the best that you could? Is this going to sell 1 million or 100 million copies? And then you kind of just move on and it kind of gets lost after a while. And that was a really good point. A lot of people brought that up, and I'm starting to see that's where the cultural difference lies. And Nick, that I can see that you've clearly been in Japan enough. Here you don't really boast about your accomplishments or anything like that. Everyone's just kind of like, okay, yeah, I did that, and it was just another day at the office, sort of thing. So, that's why we don't get credited. We don't ask to be, and I don't think it really leads to anything except for the people involved that like to constantly use the same people again. Mm-hmm. They love consistency here. And so therefore, that's the credit right there. It's just being consistent and working with the same staff and working with the same people, and that's the magic right there.
I wonder. I'm curious, like how often this is still, because I think at the very least, video games have gotten better about crediting people over time, even Japanese video games. But also, I think that Japanese video games are very often doing some of their voice work for like a main character in the West, right? And then those people have to deal with they end up crediting those people because that's how it works over here. But do you think there are still video game gigs where the voice actor goes uncredited in Japan in 2019?
99% of the times, yes.
Wow.
We understood it. Yeah, I did that game with Rommel. I sent you the script actually.
Yeah.
When I did Rommel, I mean that was a production they worked 3 years on, and they were taking pictures together with me afterwards. With all the staff, the creators were fantastic. They were Japanese and Americans. It was a nice mix, and. So yeah, but as far as being credited, I didn't ask. But they said, okay, listen, this is a really developing kind of character, and because it's so interactive, that listen, can we call you the second week of Japan? It's like I said, actually, I get back around the 13th or 14th. So yeah, let's shoot for I guess it was the 21st or 22nd. They want to do another recording. So that's how that part works. Gotcha. And so, will it be credited? I can't say. Do I care at this point? I'm starting to care.
I guess maybe this experience has been a realization of like, oh, there are people who are super interested in this stuff in the world.
That's fascinating. For us, it's like I said, it feels like another day at the as you say at the office, and for us, it's like, okay, great. Did we do a good job? And another thing is just to get a copy of it or something to hear something. Mm-hmm. And when you edited all this together, I mean, it was phenomenal just to see it not in game form. And I actually still, and I will check when I get to Niagara Falls in a few weeks. I know that I have some of the old Monkey Ball games, or maybe I'm going to try to find the original script. If that's a big if I still have it.
I mean, if you found that, it would make my year. It would be so cool to see that stuff.
I'd actually just send it to you, give it to you if I can find it. I promise I will take a good look. During some of the decluttering years, I guess you could say, you realize that, some scripts. No, I do still have some scripts from 25 years. Actually, even at the time when I got to go to Russia, and
you've done work in Europe as well, right?
Yes. A lot in Germany, and but with the Japanese, there was a lot in actually in Russia, of all places, in Vladivostok and Khabarovsk in Siberia, and we we went there to do recordings and do some video shots there. So of course I kept some of those scripts. Those were just so iconic. And but as far as the gaming and everything like that,
Yeah.
don't forget, a lot of this at the time, there was nothing that was actually sent to us, and I'm sure a lot of your a lot of your viewers are going to find this funny. A lot of the scripts were faxed. You can believe that.
Ooh.
And so, I mean, I look at some of the fax paper now, and I mean, everything has just become, basically like some old manuscript you find at the bottom of the Dead Sea, or and it's either faded away or it's colored and that sort of thing. And so a lot of the stuff was faxed to me, or it was sent by mail, or a lot of it was confidential. That was the other point that someone brought up too, is that we did sign a lot of confidentiality agreements. I really don't have any idea where those are, but some of these really big games, Nintendo was really big on signing contracts.
Oh, interesting. Did you work on some Nintendo stuff?
Oh, I did endless Nintendo.
Oh my! Anything you remember?
Wow, that's a good question, Nick. That's a very, very good question. I was going to say I might hire you as my agent. I think that you would probably know a lot better than I would. No, yeah. Nintendo, I know for a fact, because every time we finished, they would always send me a copy of the game or something like that. And I still, in my mind, I'm getting all these flashes in my mind right now of the Nintendo logo. Nintendo, Sega, Konami, Sony. Sony was quite interesting, because of course there was like, it's a Sony. I did taglines for all the Sony commercials and everything. But on top of that, Sony had a lot of games. Xbox as well was another one. They were endless. These are things that I have to pull out
if you find a pile of Nintendo games back in Niagara Falls when you go there for the holidays, maybe that could give us a hint as to some of the games you contributed to.
I will definitely take a look at those. And the other thing would be they used when you do these recordings, they take your voice, and there's a lot of, you have a script, you have a fixed script, and then there's some scripts that aren't fixed, and so they're going to add various lines like, oh wait, you just kind of reminded us, maybe the character could also be doing this or doing that. So a lot of ad lib as well. And so I think that when you're in the studio, you have a fixed script, and then there's like a bonus round, and it's like, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. Okay, good. Let's add this. Let's add that.
I noticed that on the mobile game script that you sent me a few weeks ago. I checked it out, and there was there was one section that was just like grunts and noises that you do when you get injured, and it was written on there like, feel free to improvise a little here.
Yeah, that's definitely it. That, like I said, that was probably this is something I'll never forget, because it was amazing. They gave me their iPhone, and I was holding mine, because of course I don't have their game loaded on my phone, but I'm touching it afterwards, and they were magical. They put the voice in it, and I was having a conversation with myself in the character voice. And this guy was a bad-ass.
Like, you speak to the character and he responds? Is that how it works?
Yeah, you basically, I'm touching the character, and it was funny. I was doing a bunch of single words, and then I was also doing phrases, and he got a little bit snarky with me, and I thought, did I really say that? Don't touch me there, and what are you doing? We will go off to battle. It's like, no, this kind of fighting back and forth with myself. And I'm like, wow, I think I'm going to have to, declutter my brain after having this conversation with myself on this phone.
Sounds surreal.
So you're gonna really love that one. That one's really fascinating, and I think it's bigger than what they thought it would be, because we're gonna be doing an edition. Like I said, I think it was the 20th or the 21st, around that time in January, and we're going to be adding more to that. But this goes way beyond anything you've ever seen before, and I would.
What is the name of that game again?
I can't tell you.
Oh, okay.
I can just all I can say is I was Rommel, and Rommel is his character will be expanding, and clearly this was like I said, it took 3 years. I remember meeting them 3 years ago on another project that I did with them, and it took them 3 years to put this together. Now that it's put together, we've already started the initial recordings, and then just as a joke, I think they did it just as a joke. They were really sweet. They just kind of input it, and they said, "Here, touch my phone." I'm like, "Are you sure?" And it's like, "Yeah, go ahead, touch my phone." And that's where the interaction began. I'm like, wow, this is wild. I'm having something I just recorded, and then we were just having a coffee together in the studio, and like within 30 minutes they had already uploaded just like I think it was just a trial, or just kind of something to keep me amused. And I was like, wow, this is insanely magical. This is just wonderful. So yeah, look forward to that one. I have no idea how many other characters there are, again, because we work in the studio a lot solo. 90 I'd say about 98% of the times we're in the studio alone. And the odd time I might just walk by and see another narrator, maybe. Or if it's female narrator, then what we will, in that case, we will work together.
Gotcha. Interesting. Do you want to take some more questions from the chat here? Because people have been asking some interesting stuff about how this career path works. One question that I saw was when you mentioned doing work in Russia and in Europe, there was I think Seth was asking if you speak other languages besides English and Japanese.
Yes, actually, I speak Russian, and I speak German. I'm a German. I have 4 citizenships. I think we had this conversation before. It's funny, all this happens at once. Someone from the Times in London. I don't know how people find me. It's like you. It's how this all comes together. It's so bizarre. But they were looking at how many people have 4 passports in the world. I think aside from Jason Bourne, this was like the premise of this guy's article. It's just like, how can you have 4 passports? You have 4 different citizenships. How is this even possible? And the importance of it and everything like that. So that brought into the linguistics part of it. So yeah, I speak Russian. I do games in Russian. I do games in French, and I do games in German as well. And Russian, of course, is always the quintessential soldier, badass Soviet.
Could you give me a little bit of Russian soldier right now?
Ну, так сейчас, можно я делаю, но так говорится по-русски, но как это? Boy, I have to think about this one right now.
That's amazing.
I got to speak without a script in front of me. That's insane.
Right, that must feel different, having to improvise some Russian soldier dialogue.
Yeah, they're of course they're always just like cold, and they go. That's the beautiful thing of it. They have this if the quintessential German soldier. I mean, what are we in 1945 again or something like that? And it's like, yeah. It's been some. I should send you some pictures later. It's quite interesting too. We did some movie. There was a big movie called Teto Taisen. Teto Taisen was a movie during Hitler's era, and of course, if you're being a blonde German, they were just like, okay, this is something you're going to do, and I mean, this is just something you can't get away with in most other countries. But it was the relationship between the Japanese army and the Nazis. And so this part was that there was so many roles like that, or a Russian soldier in Harbin in the part of northern part of China at the time where there was such a great mix of Russians and Chinese, so that was a lot of roles like that, and that it spill over so much into the gaming world. The soldier part did, of course. Yeah, that was a lot of films, done as Russian soldiers, or in Godzilla. My God, I could say I've been in Godzilla. Wow.
Do you, when you're doing voice work in Japan, you're primarily doing English voices, right?
I do a lot in Japanese, believe it or not.
Oh, really? Okay, that's what I was curious about.
Yeah. I do. I did a lot for Sony in Japanese. They wanted someone who had extremely fluent Japanese, but they wanted me to tweak certain words. There was something on one of my demo tapes is Fuji-Q Highland, and they wanted some. It reminds me of Monkey Ball so much. They just wanted this crazy voice that the mad scientist just sort of thing, riding on a roller coaster at Fuji-Q, out near Mount Fuji, and that was another one of those. Crazy. It's such a vast. How many languages you speak leads you into different worlds of doing narration, because we still haven't got to the point yet. Who knows? Maybe next year, maybe a few years from now, that they'll be able to perfect voice. To the point that we can actually do that, but it leaves the whole element of feeling and everything that I've learned from watching all your subscribers mentioning to me that saying, hey, look at these different voices or how the feeling is in the voice. And I don't think we can get that yet with AI.
Oh, for sure.
That's why narrators are still needed, and plus just the whole changing and everything. But I will say I have done airport announcements for airports in Japan as well, and we take word by word, and they're still stringing these words together. So it's like ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard flight 4325, and you have this really bizarre, and I'm like, come on, you guys can do better than that. Like, so the tone is really off, and that happens in a lot of languages, though. So the more languages you speak, the bigger your world becomes here. But a lot of Japanese, I would say a good 30, maybe 40% of my work is done in Japanese.
Wow. Cool.
And the other reason, Nick, that's really important, I'm going to try to, I don't know how Friday's going to play out. It's going to kind of play out how this whole thing is played out. When we were talking, it was just like, hey, what are we going to do today? And I think on Friday, you're going to see that speaking Japanese, no one speaks English here, as you very well know. You can imagine being in a studio. You have a director that doesn't speak any English. You have a producer. You have clients, that don't speak a lick of English, and so all the communication will be done, you'll see, in Japanese. And then I did look at this script. I was a good boy. I actually took a quick look at this script for Friday. It's all in English. But I'm going to try to let the camera run, and we'll just see how this turns out. I love this one studio. And I'm sure they'll let me do this. I'll just set up I'll just bring my iPhone and just set it up. You'll see the interaction is all done in Japanese.
Right.
And then you have to switch your brain over right away and go into English. I've never worked with an interpreter. From day one, it was like, you better learn Japanese or that's it. Because there was times before you actually came to Japan, Nick, where every sign was in Japanese.
Right.
Not one person spoke English. I went weeks without speaking English sometimes.
That's so interesting to me, because as a tourist in contemporary Tokyo, it's so easy to navigate Japan as somebody who doesn't speak Japanese. It's every sign, even primarily in Tokyo, but even going outside of Tokyo, like, you can get by as an English speaker just fine now. But I don't think that was true a few decades ago.
Well, it's not even a few decades ago. As you know, I'm actually I was in biotech for many years as well. So I was actually doing both jobs. I was working for biotech firms, and I would race off to the studio, then race off to the lab, and on weekends I would do narration for Iron Chef or something like that. And we have these times that. I can tell you, I was down even up to 5 years ago. I left the world of biotech, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. I was down in Kyushu and Shikoku almost every single week. I can tell you, in the 8 or 12 years I was down there, and literally almost every week, except if I was overseas or it was holidays, what was happening is that I would end up, going. There was times I never saw a foreigner at all, or I never had a chance to even speak English. No one spoke English at all, because tourism was not really. I mean, how many people really said, I'm going to go to Japan for a holiday? Nobody said this. And so it was, I would literally go days, and I remember sometimes it was like 5-6 days in a row. I never spoke English at all. Everything was just done in Japanese, because I was surrounded by Japanese all the time.
Did you speak any Japanese when you first moved to Japan?
Yes, I did. I was still a university student, and I finished my university here. But so when I got over here, it was just like, I remember walking down the street, and I already had probably a good 2,000 word vocabulary or something at that time. And I was walking down the street, and and I just see, you walk into a store, and all of a sudden you see the people just like kind of like freeze up. It's like, oh shit! It's a foreigner. Oh my god! And it's like you walk into the store, and it's like, and you start speaking Japanese. You just see the relief on their face. And because a lot of them, I had women like drop their grocery bags, and it's like, "Arama gaijin da," like, oh my god, it's a foreigner, and I'm just like, what's going on, And
but that doesn't really happen anymore, especially with the younger generation of Japanese people. It's less startling, I think, to see a foreigner than ever before.
Can you imagine? I was doing biotech I was down in Tojima and Kashima. I was on islands.
Okay, so you were way out there.
Where I would get my lunch out of a vending machine. I mean, these islands only had maybe 150, 200 people on them. And it was like, oh yeah, I was working for a Norwegian biotech firm at the time in aquaculture. And, they're just like, oh, it's that Norwegian dude. And I'm just like, well, okay, I'll take it, whatever. Just if I'm Norwegian that day, I'm Norwegian. But that went on for like 8 years until they found out, no, he's not Norwegian. And but they were just like, they kind of put whatever job you're doing or wherever company you're working for, in that case it was a Norwegian company, oh, he must be Norwegian. And so it's you're on these islands where no one's even had contact with a foreigner before. Right. It's like, what planet am I on? And I don't know, I guess you just, after so many years, or you just become ingrained that you walk down the street. And I never noticed this. It's kind of funny. I always had friends come and visit, or family come and visit, and they're just like, wow, people stare a lot. I'm like, really? And like, yeah, they do. And I'm like, no, they don't. And it's because you're, like I said, with narration or walking down the street or doing anything, it's just another day. You go up, you do everything that you would do in your normal life anywhere in the world. But here, I guess, you're kind of thinking, okay, where do I have to go? Oh yeah, I have to do this later. I have to do that later. Okay, about the job. Let me just look over the script now. I'm on the train. And then someone who's sitting beside you, that's with you, that's, come to visit, or, friends, family, and they say, wow, people stare a lot. And I'm like, really? And because, you live here and you just kind of go about your daily business. And that's the part that's really unique. And now I look back, I'm really thankful. I got to see Japan raw. I mean, really, really, really raw, where, like I said, I went to places where I think the last foreigners were here. They were like, were the Dutch or something, when, missionaries before they got slaughtered, going back hundreds and hundreds of years. And one of the most interesting times was I was down in an island down in Kyushu. It was like the first McDonald's ever opened up in Japan.
Whoa.
And you gotta imagine this. This place had the golden arches, and you actually had to. I had a rental car all the time when I was in southern Japan. I had a rental car, and I got to drive through the magical, magical arches. And I went back. I thought, dear God, what is this, like the 1960s? And they're like, yeah, this restaurant was actually like from 1968 or something like that. And it was like the first McDonald's in Japan, and it was like, whoa, dude, like, wow, I'm freaking out here. This is going so way back in time.
Yeah, it's like being on LSD. It would be surreal.
No, it was amazing just to see that, these original McDonald's, and nothing had changed. I mean, you had good old Ronnie there sitting on the bench, and plastic as always, and I'm sure they touched him up every few weeks or something like that. But wow, it was just incredible.
Do you? One question that, well, actually, I have a couple questions. One thing that I'm curious about is you mentioned to me in one of our conversations that you were not born in the States, right?
Yeah, I saw this. I never Googled my name, but when someone put a link up for IMDB that I was born in, I think it said Fremont or somewhere in California. I'm like, no. I love the States, and I'm a Niagara Falls boy, but I'm on the other side. I was born in Canada, but I spent a lot of my time in the States.
I see.
But no, I was not born in California. That I think we're gonna have to get that one adjusted as well. But I had never actually even looked at that page before. I don't.
It's so funny because when I first found that IMDb page, which has a different name on it, I asked the director, because I was really hunting hard at this point. There's that IMDb page, to your point about it not being super accurate, has a movie credit that's like a documentary or some sort of movie about Mount Fuji. And I emailed the director of that movie. I didn't include this in the video, but I emailed the director being like, hey, this guy, I heard this guy could potentially be the person I'm looking for. And the guy was like, oh yeah, I don't know who that guy is that you're looking for. I don't know why it says he was in my movie on IMDb. That's not him. And I was like, man, IMDb is really just like sub Wikipedia in terms of its accuracy.
Yeah, I like I said, I took a glance at it the other day, and I thought, wow, I was born, I think it said 1972. I was born in, I can't remember, Ventura or Fremont, California, or something like that. And I'm like, no. And some of those, I must say, a lot of the work is correct. And I do a lot of the announcements for all the tour buses and the trains for Mount Fuji, and I've shot movies in Mount Fuji as well, or near Mount Fuji, near the lakes and everywhere else like that. But yeah, as far as what's true and what's not true, hey kids, don't believe everything that you have on that you see on the internet. Yep. Because it's it's not the case. But you are correct that I'd say it was probably 80% accurate, except I don't know, small details like the name or the date of birth or the citizenship or but as far as the work, yeah, that was correct.
Well, one place that is correct now is that I've seen that, like, on voice actor databases and on Wikipedia and stuff, they've all been updated. They were actually updated while the video was still airing when I first broadcast it to have your name on there. So it's most of that stuff is we've got the word out about Monkey Ball at the very least.
Right. I'm just waiting for Sega to give me a call and say, hey, we're going to be doing Monkey Ball again. It's like
they did there's some hints that they might. They didn't touch the franchise for basically 8 years, and then just this past month they re-released a game in the series that's frankly not one of the better ones, and it was also not one of the Brian Matt ones. But they've been talking on their Twitter about, like, hey, if we made another Monkey Ball game, what would you people be interested in seeing? And I think if they were to do, like, say, a Super Monkey Ball 3 that was like the old games, they would have no choice but to bring Brian Matt on, I think. It just seems like a no-brainer to me.
Well, I think you've probably stirred the pot here. I mean, you've clearly the hornet's nest has been shaken, and Sega's always, hey, something that was popular 20 years ago or whatever, 2001, 2002. I really believe that all of these things always come full circle, and when they come full circle, then there's this, and even now there's such a fascination with the quirkiness when I saw some of these characters in Super Monkey Ball and Monkey Ball 2, I mean, some of these were just like, whoa, dude! Like, I have to meet the guy that actually thought of these. Like, what was he on? What was he thinking? Some of those characters at the time were insane. I thought, wow, this guy, and I actually I got to go to the part of Sega where the characters are, where all the drawings are made and where all the graphics. It's like kind of being in a South Park studio, to be honest with you. You just get to see how all of this is put together, and I thought, wow, this is really insane. This guy, I thought, wow, what was your childhood like that you could think of some of these characters, because they really, really, really are bizarre. I don't remember all the names of the characters. If I wasn't the character, I just remember looking at some of them, but some of them was just like, it reminded me of circa, I don't know, probably videos that I wasn't here, in the 80s, but some of these, like places like Valfare, for example, in Roppongi, where they had these feathers and these big bizarre characters. These things were so camp for 18, 19 years ago, and you look at them now, I mean, they're probably in fashion right now. So, but I remember meeting the graphics artist, and I thought, wow, dude, I want to know what's going on inside of your brain. This is just
it's so interesting, because the guy, are you familiar with the I can't remember the Japanese name, but there's a PlayStation game series called Yakuza, and I think it's called like a Dragon in Japanese. But it's like a very popular role-playing game franchise where you're a Yakuza member, and the creator of that series and the guy who's the director of it to this day created Super Monkey Ball and was the producer on Monkey Ball 1 and 2. You may have met him at some point back before he completely transformed. He looks like a Yakuza guy now, like his whole vibe has changed, but it's funny, I've seen interviews with him where he said that for some reason Monkey Ball didn't perform amazing in Japan, but was shockingly popular in the West. And so he got a call from the president of Sega being like, hey, I just want to say, a great job understanding the Western market. And he just was like, yes, thank you. That was definitely intentional. When it clearly was not, it was just a fluke. But I love that story, because it just, the success of Monkey Ball in America was a total accident. But that weird idea just resonated in America for some reason with a lot of people, including me as an 11-year-old.
Wow. There's a lot of funny Yakuza. I used to have Yakuza as my neighbor when I was living in Yokohama. Lived in Kamakura first, and then I lived in Yokohama. Then gradually it ended up in Tokyo. But no, they were nice. I mean, they were, the punch perms, they called them. And
that hair.
They would be wearing women's gold slippers, and they'd bring me oranges over and stuff like that. I mean, you did not mess with these guys at all. And the Japanese,
Brian, you need to write a book. I just would read I would read 1,000 pages of you telling your life story. I just feel like I could say any noun and you would have some incredible story of how you experienced it.
I must say though, they always brought me the best oranges over. I mean, they were just so sweet. All the other neighbors, you just see Yakuza da, do show. I'm like, hey, how you doing? Domo konnichiwa. Brian-san, chotto ne, I bring you the, orange. I'm like, wow, cool, thank you, And they were just so super sweet, but all the other neighbors were just turning all the blood left their faces, and they just went stone white, and I'm just like, wow, these guys are the sweetest guys. They're just so nice. And and honest to God, I mean, they would come on over, and you knew right away from the tattoos, which tattoos are still not allowed in Japan. If you go to
like an onsen,
here it's a normal thing here. Actually, here in Omotesando, one stop from where you were in Shibuya, we have one of the oldest public baths here. If you even have a tattoo the size of a nickel, on you, you are not allowed in because,
Mhm.
of course, tattoos mean that you're part of the Yakuza. I had a Thai girl that she was a good friend of mine. Known her for like 15 years. She came over here. She had a little butterfly on her butt, and I came out and said, "Hey, so how did you enjoy your bath?" And she's crying. I'm like, "Damn, that doesn't look good, does it?" And she just said, "Oh, the old woman started screaming at me, and she kicked me out." I'm like,
Oh
"Ah!"
no.
Why? And she goes, my little butterfly on my butt, and I'm like, like this is how, But for me, the Yakuza was always they were so sweet, and you brought up a really good memory. I was Viggo Mortensen's interpreter in California.
Amazing.
Honest to God, and you can look it up. It was with Ishibashi Ryo, and the movie was called Yakuza.
Wow.
And I was his. Oh wow, we worked on that for a long time, maybe 9 months. I was Ishibashi Ryo. He was a very, very famous singer in Japan, and there was a movie with Michael Douglas. And I don't remember. I know. And they shot it in Osaka. And oh God, I can't remember the name of the movie now. It was the Yakuza, and his police partner gets killed. Anyway, the Japanese actor that was in there was best friends with Ishibashi Ryo. And production company came out to me and they said, "Hey, listen, this guy needs a dialogue coach, and we need you to interpret for him." So I flew off to California. And I remember this was the year of The Bodyguard. This is how I have to go. 1991, I believe. And I got to go to California with the director, with Ishibashi Ryo, and then they said, then I met this guy, and they said, "Did you ever see Blade Runner?" And I'm like, no, of course at that time we didn't, if you went to the cinema, you saw it, if you did or you didn't. I'm like, no. And it's like, he's like, "You're going to interpret for this guy." So I met this guy, really, really down to earth and sweet guy. He's like, "Hi, Brian, my name is Viggo." I'm like, "Nice to meet you, Mr. Mortensen." No, call me Viggo. And I'm like, okay. And so I interpreted for Viggo Mortensen I was there twice. I went back to LA 2 times. And American Yakuza. Thank you very much. Someone just put that 1990.
Oh, the name of the movie.
Yes. I did American Yakuza. That was with Ishibashi Ryo and Viggo Mortensen. So I ended up Black Rain. Thank you very much. Boy, your people are really on this. Yes, Black Rain. So the Japanese co-star in Black Rain to Michael Douglas was best friends with Ishibashi Ryo, and so the director wanted that same kind of feeling to be done again in a movie called Za Yakuza, or American Yakuza, I think it was the English title. And so I got to be with, and I had no idea who this Viggo Mortensen was, but super sweet and multilingual. Multilingual. The guy was wonderful. He didn't speak Japanese, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for me, because I got to work with him.
You got to be the interpreter, right?
Yeah, it was wonderful. But it was French. He spoke Dutch. I remember he spoke Italian. He spoke Spanish. I mean, the guy was really, really talented and such a gentleman. Yeah, that was a really great memory. Super, super sweet. Yeah. And another fun fact here: we went, the director, the producer, Ichise-san was the director, and the producer, and Ishibashi-san and Viggo and myself went to Little Tokyo in LA. And I had never been there before, and God, they got so sake'd up in some Japanese restaurant. This was during filming, and it was just like, okay, I know my sake level, and it's not really that high, and so we had more sake than we could ever imagine. Then I remember walking out of the restaurant, and mo Brian, chantane, hashite kureyo, like run, and I'm like,
what?
Go! Like, run? What do you mean, run? We saw these guys with bats that were chasing us because right away they thought these Japanese guys had money. And Viggo was going, Brian, I'm like, move your ass. Like, let's go, run. And so we ran like hell to get back to the car. And so here we were getting chased in Little Tokyo. For me, this was like life in a video game.
Right,
It was
you're drunk in Little Tokyo with Viggo Mortensen being chased by guys with bats.
Exactly, with Viggo, and Viggo's waiting for the translation. Brian, what did he say? Run like hell, like go, follow me, come on, let's go. And so we went, and then we actually just ran into the car, and then the guys went away because I guess the sake fueled us enough to put rocket boosters on our feet to blast us off into the car and get away. So yeah, so a lot of great memories. Japan offers. One thing I realized that I can see clearly now, Japan always offered opportunity. I mean, the opportunities were always there. I mean, here's like a biochemist kid that just speaks, Japanese, and the world that's given to you. Japan always says one thing: we'll give you an opportunity, we'll give you a chance, and then you prove yourself. And I noticed in the West that when you are when you're actually in the States, you have to prove yourself first. And here, you're given the chance first, and then you prove yourself. And I think that is something that is so incredibly beautiful, that to have that opportunity to say, hey, wait a minute, I'm sorry, but I've never, for example, I've never narrated in a lot of French narration as well. And it's like, I spoke French since I was a child. I went to school. And it's like, but I'm not a French narrator. And it's like, no, we like your voice. And there's this actress, Sugimoto Aya-san, and she was like, she was the bomb, man. She was so sexy. She was such a beautiful, beautiful woman, and such a little sex kitten. And she really, they really loved this beautiful, beautiful woman. And she was, I can't even think of a modern day woman that would be equally. She was like I don't want to say, she had that Marilyn Monroe kind of feeling to her.
She's a celebrity in Japan?
She's huge. She's an actress that was just so beautiful and beyond beautiful. And she heard my voice on, I did a French commercial, and I did one of her videos, and it was kind of, she wanted it very sexy, and it was probably the sexiest French video narration I've ever done in my life. And she was such a sweetheart. And I look back now and I see, probably, if you were to name the top, in the last 25 years, the top 10 American actresses, I basically worked with the top 10 Japanese actresses, either interpreting for them or preparing them for a role for the Last Samurai, for example.
Oh my God.
Tom Cruise was in that. I saw the first script. Did you know that movie was the first script? They had it ready. They were ready to shoot down in Kyoto, and they were starting. We went down to Kyoto. We were falling through the floorboards. The equipment was too heavy and everything like that.
Whoa.
And so what they were doing was, then they held it off. Then they stopped everything. And at that time, I don't think it was Tom. I think Tom Cruise did it at the end. No, was it Tom Cruise? It doesn't matter. Anyway, but at that time, we ended up, we'd sat for like 3 or 4 years, and they're like, hey, Brian, can you come in and prepare Nakatani Miki-san, who is my favorite, love her. Nakatani Miki-san, they're going to put her, I think the role is for Keiko or something like that. And we want her to do The Last Samurai. Can you be her interpreter? Can you be her dialogue coach? And she's just such a lovely girl. I love her dearly. Mm-hmm. And so all these actresses that I worked with were basically the top 10 women in Japanese history of movies and of TV. And I ended up, spending, oh my God, some of them 8 to 10 years with them. I mean, we traveled together, went to Hawaii, I was in their houses, we went for dinner and everything like that. And again, what Japan gives you, for me, it was like, that's Yamaguchi Tomoko-san, one of the biggest TV actresses in the history of Japanese TV. And we'd be in a French restaurant. And I think what they liked is that, you're never starstruck. To me, they were just, it's the person. Is the person a nice person? There was no attitude with them or anything like that.
Right.
What they liked is that, people would come up to the table. I mean, they were just like, we had hysterical, screaming, women coming up to the table, or guys that were just kind of like, perving out and like, dude, like, move on, leave her alone. And to me, it was just like, she was just kind of just chuckle, and she goes, doesn't any of this like rub you in any way? I was like, nah. Like,
well, it's just interesting because when you're visiting Japan, like, if you weren't born and raised there, your radar for who is and isn't famous is configured to the West, right? And so I think I sort of understand what you're saying in terms of like not having to the people in the bar with you, this is like the most famous person they're ever going to see, but to you it's just a coworker, right?
Oh my God, I've had flight attendants when Ishibashi-san and I and Vigo were on the plane one time, and it was just like, I mean, the flight attendants were just going insane. I mean, they were never, this was on ANA on Seniku, and which was funny at the times. I did the narration, I heard my voice on the plane. I'm like, oh dear, this is getting a bit bizarre, isn't it? And then the flight attendant, she says, oh, is that your voice? I'm like, yeah. And then she looks, and Ishibashi, she goes, oh, Ishibashi, do you want to say, can you get him to give me to ask yourself, honey, like just ask him for, like, oh, for God's sakes, give her your autograph. She wants your autograph, and then photo or something like that, and then there would be someone else for Vigo, and it was such a really a bizarre world. But once you get into it and then you build your trust with them, it went from Nakatani Miki-san to Tokiwa Takako-san to one of the biggest in Takarazuka. This is something else you should look into. The females who act as males. Takarazuka is like the biggest. This started decades ago, and I worked with one girl for many years. She ended up shooting. We shot a movie in Seattle, and she would, just a delight. Amami Yuki-san, just a sweetheart. And she was the biggest in Takarazuka, which is women when they play men's roles. It's kind of opposite of Shakespeare, basically. And that was it was magical. But these people, I think that what they really liked was that, I don't know, to me they were just nice people. They were fun, they were beautiful, they were friendly, they were, just great people. But for the Japanese, these people are icons. These people are gods here. I mean, these people just go nuts over their superstars. But I guess they do the same thing in any country. But
yeah,
here,
celebrity culture is slightly a different beast in Japan, for sure.
Right, it's magnified. It's just so magnified here. And here, I mean, the restaurants, the Esquire Club, the private clubs, everything that we got to go and see, and everything that we got to do. It's how big the name is, or how big the actor or actress is. And but I must say, I never met anyone that I did not enjoy working with. They were great. They were just wonderful. Have it be voice actors or voice actresses, or be someone that was doing TV, that was doing film. They were all really, they were just such a pleasure to work with, because of the gaijin element that was there. You weren't a threat, and they just saw you as, oh God, finally someone I can speak with, and be myself around, and not have to put on any kind of show. So it was interesting, and I still think that still carries over today. They're still very much like that. They don't want they enjoy the intimacy, or the how the respect and the privacy and everything. And for it's just another day. But I think for Japanese, they probably have they freak out. They just kind of freeze up. And I saw that so many times, and it was quite comical, actually. Yeah.
It sounds to me like you like your job. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I think someone asked me before, and I've always said this. I mean, especially with narration. I mean, narrating games and stuff like that. Some of it was just so off that I mean, I would have done it for free. I mean, I would have definitely done it for free. It was just so much fun to do this sort of thing that it was great. You're doing voices. And if you the time when they did put narrators together, it was great because we could work together and we would laugh about things that some of the wording and some of the characters and everything. And some of the English, it was like, I don't think you really want to say that. And they're like,
Did that
why?
ever happen where you were like, hey, I think that this line, you might not know exactly what's being said here. I think we should.
Google Translate, basically, yeah. Or if they did use translation software, something like that, it's like, I don't think that's what you wanted to say. I don't think that's what you meant. And they're like, what do you mean? And like, what should we say? And I'm like, okay, this is what this means. This is what you're saying, and in all reality, this is what it means. And like, oh my God, no, we don't want to use that. And can you change it? Like, yeah, I think we will change that.
That's the benefits of having a bilingual voice actor in your studio, right?
The best part was they gave me a script one time, and I was working with this one female narrator. She used to wear leopard skin tight bodysuit to the studio, and long, tall, blonde Swedish American, and we did a job for Citibank, and we both got the script, and she was I love her dearly, but she was such a ditzy blonde, and she would just say, we got the script, and I said, in all honesty, I said, 24 whores banking.
That's what it said?
Yeah, and I'm not going to say her name because she's still narrating these days in the States in California. But she was like, oh, Brian, okay, this is my line first, okay, 24 whores banking. And I'm like, oh, God. And they're just like, more, blah, 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 san, more, yokatta desu yo, more, that was really good, blah, blah, san, Miss blah, blah. And I'm like,
somebody needs to step in here, right? Like,
sorry, this is Citibank. Hello, this is not like Mama San Bank or anything like this. Is Citibank. Can we just change whores to maybe let's just scale down a bit first. Let's go from 24. And then she's like, okay, oh, I'm sorry, whores. Oh, I get it now. Okay, 24 hours bank. And I'm like, oh,
it was hours. 24-hour bank. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, you kind of missed on that one too. It's like, and she's like, I mean, this girl she was like 6 feet, and boobs out to like, that could touch the table, and just this blonde, sexy kitten that was just, and I just sat there, I just pissed myself laughing. This was just way too much. And I'm like, okay, guys, I'm just gonna say now. This was a lot of fun, but we really have to say 24-hour banking, and no more whores and no more hours and everything like that. But that's the scale of, you can imagine that this happens all the time. Some of the scripts were, and especially for English conversation, I was doing things for TOEIC and for TOEFL, and I mean, God help all these people that were trying to get a score of, let's say 800 or whatever. It's like, actually that English is really wrong, and that's bad, and we don't use this, or we don't say it this way, we don't say it that way. Right. So you spent half the time in the studio just correcting scripts. Yeah, I did one last week for a CEO. I did the narration over for him, but he had to, of course, say his few lines. I'm not going to say what company, of course, but it was one of Japan's largest gas and oil production companies. And some of the words that came out of his mouth, and I was like, oh my God, I've been through this so many times. I think it's time just to kind of say, why don't you just come here for a second, and let's just bring the writer over here for a second. Okay, here we are in 2019.
That should be on your resume, is that I can also help make your script less nonsensical, right? That's like a whole separate job that you're doing for free.
Yeah, and the other one was I mean, it even this goes just to modern day. I mean, this was just last week, and can you imagine what it was like 20 years ago when we had all of these really bad translations, or Big Bank saying 24 whores, or that was still one of the classics. I just kind of loved it. And other times in the studios too, where the double entendres, the meanings that they were just kind of flew over their heads, or just the innocence that in English that they didn't know. It's like, no, you really don't want to say that one either. Right. This is for TOEFL. I mean, this is what's used in most.
It's going to get broadcast, and a lot of. I mean, you encounter just walking around Japan stuff like written stuff in particular where there was nobody in the room who was like, I don't know that that's exactly what you want to say there.
Right. Yeah, but they're doing better now because the Olympics are next summer, and so what they've done is I don't know when the first time you ever came to Japan was, but there was no signs in English, there was no one who ever spoke any English whatsoever, but now because of tourism and because of the Olympics coming up, now I'm like, I almost fell off my seat the other week. I'm like, oh my God, we always call him Porky Pig because the train conductor sounds like you have this kind of like a pig sounding voice, and the guys, the girls are like kawaii, and they go really, really high voices. Then you have the guys speaking like Porky Pig all the time, and then he's like, next stop is tamachi desu, like this, and I'm like, oh my God, this is just classic. This guy's trying so hard, and I could just imagine his boss was saying, hey, you have to start saying every stop in English too. The next stop is tamachi desu.
Yes, I've heard that before too, where not every train line hires an English speaker for the voiceover. Sometimes it's a non-native English speaker.
Never. First time I think I heard it was a month, or I don't know, maybe 2 months ago. I almost fell off my seat. I was like, oh my God, the actual conductor is, it's probably sweating bullets up there. Like, dude, concentrate on where you're driving. Don't try to worry about the English, because I know he's going to, probably jump out of the train if he gets it wrong. And, but no, they really, really, now they're just trying it. And after the Olympics, they'll all go back to speaking Japanese again.
I think I might just avoid Japan for the entire summer that the Olympics are going down. I might just come before and after.
I can tell, since no one's actually recording this or listening to our private conversation, I have a friend who's on the Olympic committee, and he the website and everything keeps crashing and trying to get tickets. And he just said it's just such a mess. And I've seen some of the translations, and he's fluent in Mandarin and English. He's Japanese, and we just had a good chuckle just kind of looking at the website and looking at all of the translations. And it's like it's going to be a mess when you get here next year. There's when you think of the Olympics or anything like that, I am basically 5 minutes away from the stadium, and we don't have enough hotels. We don't have, I don't think lodging and transportation. We have 30 million people. This is the largest metropolis in the world, 33 million people, and you're going to bring in all of these other people as well, and it's just so massive. That's why they put all the marathons up in Hokkaido, because in Tokyo, number one, it's going to probably be, I don't know, maybe 120 degrees, and I'm sure most of the runners are going to probably fall over within the first 10 minutes or 20 minutes.
Yeah, Tokyo in the summer is a unique nightmare. You said you're in Omotesando?
Yes,
that's a beautiful area. I love Omotesando a lot. Yeah, I stayed there once, and I had an amazing time.
Yeah, I'm basically right across from Comme des Garçons and Prada. I'm right across the street. So I'm right at the crossing at Omotesando. Yeah. And so I think you're staying in Shibuya. This is the ironic part of it, that we never met. And we meet on, Skype for that one time after you were already back in the States. And yet you were in Shibuya, and which was like a 10-minute walk.
I could have walked to you probably if I had known who you were and where you were.
Yeah, exactly, and yeah, so it's fascinating. It really, really is. But yeah, the Olympics. But the Japanese are like, oh damn, do we have to learn English? We don't want to have to speak English. They have no, everyone has their strong points, and linguistics are not their strong point, and they don't really care to speak another language. As many Japanese have told me over many years, it's like, this is Japan, why do we need to speak anything else but Japanese? So, which is great for me as an interpreter, as a narrator.
Right, yeah, more job opportunities for you.
Yeah, it works out fine. But I think as far as the Olympics, they're really trying hard. But my friend at the Olympic Committee said all of the staff are like, damn, we can't wait for this to be over. And I'm like, why? He says, because none of the staff really want to speak English anymore, or speak any other language after the Olympics. They want everything to go back to Japanese again. It's too much of a strain on the brain, I guess you could say. So yeah, so
it's interesting. Like anecdotally, I think that I've noticed that the younger generation of Japanese people who are like in their 20s right now are. There might be a difference there. Like I find that they and I'm sure it's partially driven by politeness, but can and will and often like relish opportunities to practice speaking English, which has been really interesting because it's not at all the Japan that I've heard about for so long. But the young people that I meet on a daily basis can really do speak great English and love for opportunities to do it.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, yeah, we'll see what happens with as far as them wanting to continue with English or the excitement for English. Like I said, sometimes when you're too close to the action, or you're in the hot pot yourself. I mean, you don't really see what's around you. So I mean, I speak Japanese all day, and I don't know. I just do what I have to do, and I don't really see that myself. But I think that's like I said, when friends come over, or when family comes over, then they say, hey, did you notice this, or did you notice that? And I'm like, actually, no, I didn't. I'm still kind of thinking what time I got to be at the studio today, and I've got this.
Speaking of that, you said you have a recording session later today, right? Like later this morning at 10 a.m. or something, or did I mishear you?
No. There's one. No. Tomorrow is Robot Restaurant. There is one later today. There's not one this morning, but there's one later today. Tomorrow's Robot Restaurant, and then there's another one. Oh yeah, then the real estate. What day are we now? We're now Wednesday. So yeah, then on Friday, we have the one for real estate. Yeah. So yeah, it's So, and then we'll see what. There's always the last minute, the end of the year kind of rush, where they have this budget left over. They have to get this done, or they have to get that done, or they forgot to do something during the year, and that goes with gaming as well. I just know there's going to be the panic calls again. It's like, no, we got to get this done. Help us. We have to get this done, and we have to record the studio. Then they'll spend the New Year's or something probably editing or adding effects or doing whatever they have to do. And then what we do is, I can tell you right now, the next 2 weeks are just going to be crazy of just trying to fit everything in, because most narrators leave. We're down to about a handful of narrators now, but I think most narrators leave and go back home for Christmas and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's fascinating. So there's kind of that rush time right now, just wanting to get these narrations done. But getting back to gaming, you're going to see a lot of really interesting new types of gaming coming up. I'm still blown away from Rommel the other day, and from what I understand, this is going to be the new way of gaming now, and it's looking at Monkey Ball right now, and in no disrespect, reminds me of Pac-Man, something like that.
You mean compared to what modern games are like?
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
It's practically a direct descendant of Pac-Man, because it's such a classical arcade game. There's almost no story. It's just pure gameplay. But I think a lot of people like me love that about it, like the purity of that it's just gameplay and nothing else.
It's raw, definitely. It's just purity and it's raw. Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. I love it as well. I think it's fascinating. But you're gonna. I have a feeling, retro, or if you want to call it that. I think, and like I said, I think you're gonna probably shake Sega's tail on this one and kind of say, hey, Monkey Ball it's not dead. It's alive. Bring it back. And that who knows? They will probably. Who knows? That maybe they could bring something back like this, because it's that nostalgia for some people, and for other people, it's the I don't want to say simplicity. It's the raw cut, and it's not so polished or anything like that. Yeah. And the game the other day was just. It was just sensory overload. I was like freaked out. I was like, wow, this is so cool. This is just amazing how it's beyond interactive. You become, it was my voice. So I guess that's why I can say this. But when it's your own voice, and I'm talking to myself, something I've just said, an hour ago, and when I was still recording, they're uploading it, and they're putting it in the character. And then when we finished. That quickly. I think they did it just to be nice, to be honest with you. And then when I came out of the studio, they're like, hey, Brian, come here. You touch my phone. And I'm like, wow, dude, that's really cool. Like I'm talking to myself, and I'm having a conversation with myself, something I just said like an hour ago. And I'm it's like Siri. I badass Siri, man. And that's who I'm talking to right now. And I thought, we just recorded these various lines, and then one of the assistants came in and said, can you just throw these lines in as well? Yeah, sure, not a problem. So added more lines, and then we had a coffee afterwards, and then they brought it out, and I just thought, wow. It was mind-altering just to see that here I was speaking to myself in a character form, that something I just recorded an hour earlier, and I would touch the screen, and they manipulated some of my phrases and my words. That's like, don't touch me there, I'll cut your head off, or something like that, because I'm carrying a sword, and I was like, wow, this is really bizarre. It was amazing. They've never done that before. Usually you have to come back, or you do a retake, or
yeah, but they did. It sounds like they did it right then.
And even then, a retake could take a month. They call me. It's like, oh, listen, we just have 3 lines. Can you come back and do it? It's like, yeah, sure, not a problem. So you go back, and then you go do the 3 lines, and it's like a month later. Seems like a year later, basically. You come back and you take a look at it, and it's like, wow, okay, wow, that really turned out wonderful. Because sometimes we get to see, when we're doing the narration, it's not an exact. People think that you're doing the voice to follow it's not an Iron Chef where I get the when I get the video or something the day before or something, or any TV program, and I time everything, and I'm trying to lip sync as close as I can to what the Japanese is. With gaming, it's a totally different thing. People don't understand that when you're doing anything with animation or with gaming, you do the voice first, and then the character is created afterwards. So everything that's done with a voice, they will match the character to the speed of my voice, to the level of my voice, to the pitch of my voice, to the reaction. Like you said, the grunts of getting punched or punching, or something else, or just actually saying the line, or elongating some sounds or anything like that. All of that is basically done first, and then the character evolves around your voice. And so there's no actual. I can see the image. This time was over the top, and I really wish I would have known about you before I did that one recording. They put the character on. There was probably 30 screens all surrounding me in the booth, and I had this character all around me, and I thought, wow, you guys are really, you're setting me up for a trip here. This is insane. You have this character, and it was a bit distracting because I'm standing up, I'm doing the narration, I've got the script in front of me, and yet I've got this character 30 screens. Like, what am I, a big camera right now or what? There's 30 screens of
A big camera reference might not make sense for people who haven't been to Japan, but I totally know what you mean. I had to go there to get I forgot to get an adapter for my laptop charger, and I was in the big camera in Shibuya like last month, and it's the ultimate electronics store, basically.
Well, the funny thing is that Rommel was actually moving, and I looked at the one girl and I kind of winked at her. I'm like, crazy. Yeah, this is so funny. You're playing with me here because I'm trying really hard to concentrate on my script because I know they worked really hard on this for 3 years, and here they are. They're having Rommel do all of these movements and all these actions, and if I was to move to the right or move to the left, oh my God, 30 screens of Rommel actually moving to the right and moving to the left, and then I thought, okay, I'm gonna play with this a bit. They're just like you always do the grunts and everything afterwards because it's such a strain on your voice. Mm-hmm. So we did all of the lines first, and then they add the additional lines, which was like, I don't know, another 5 or 6 pages or something like that. Then we just take a breather, and then what we do is then we do all the grunts, the ooh, ah, ooh, all these sort of things, and it's like, okay, that's fine. But looking at the screens, when I was some lines on the script when I was actually like I said, this guy was not the friendliest of characters. He was
Rommel is his name, right?
Yeah. He was just like, he's basically, he's a pussycat, below the surface, but the exterior is just
a tough guy. Yeah.
No emotion whatsoever. No emotion. Just kick ass and, fight, blow up, and go for lunch. But looking at the screen and seeing Rommel move when I moved and reacting, and they were really playing with me on this one. And of course I was distracted. I'm trying to focus on the script, mm-hmm. but they really want you to get into this character, and this is something that they've really never done before.
So the character would imitate your motions, is that right?
Yeah. And I didn't have any. I've done this before. I did this years ago. I've had body sensory equipment on me before when I did narrations to move the characters. So they look like ping pong balls.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I'd wear a suit, and then what happened was that they would follow my whole body movement, and then I would have also probes put on my face, and to move my mouth, to move my eyes. Every time my eyes would go up, or every time I would smile, or every time I would, throw some kind of expression, then they could pick all of this up, and all of that still had to go through a long process, and I know the editors were, just overwhelmed with the amount of work they had to do. But this time, so I kind of looked. I'll never forget the producer. She was such a sweetheart. She said to me, she kind of looked at me and she kind of winked and she was kind of laughing because I know she was playing with me, but she was actually making the character move. So she was watching the way that I was narrating and moving because it took a lot of energy.
It's like live puppeteering or something.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, exactly. That's the way it turned out. So, yeah, it was really, really interesting. It was fascinating. So, yeah, you guys, a lot of gaming is going to become really personal. That's what I felt. I just felt gaming now. You're not just whatever from Xbox to joystick is a little bit outdated, I'd say, but basically any console that you have, all of that is over with now. This goes deep into your mind, and I've never ever seen anything like it because I know what I'm doing. I know that I'm in the studio. I know what I'm recording. Those are my lines. That is my character right there. Mm-hmm. And yet you've made me feel within 1 hour or 30 minutes to 1 hour later, you make me feel that I'm actually this person and I'm interacting with another part of myself, if that makes any sense.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And I've never seen anything like that before. And
it's exciting. It seems like your job has evolved a lot over your 20 plus year career.
Yeah, big time, big time. Yeah. But I must say, it becomes you, and it was fascinating. It was just, I can't wait to get back in that studio, and you know, we're adding more in January. I can't wait to get back in the studio and see it, because to do something that live and not have probes on and not have any kind of armor on that you know, picks up any of my body movements or my facial expressions or anything like that. It's all just you know, the way that it's done now is just so deep, and it really gets into your mind. I mean, I read some of these comments, you know, how Monkey Ball affected many of your followers, your subscribers, and how they brought up with the voice or with the game and everything like that. We've moved into the next era now that you actually become the character, and I'm not going to deny it. I think there was a good 5-10 minutes there. I was just enthralled by touching and the screen and the conversation I was having with myself. I'm thinking, dude, Romo, how did you know that? And why did you say it that way? That's the way that I say it. And it was Romo it's like, wait a minute, no, Brian, you just recorded that an hour ago or 30 minutes ago. So yeah, this is how interaction is now. You are now speaking to yourself, and Romo's become you, and you have become the character. And there's no fine line anymore. We've become one. And wow, that was really intense, but it was fun. It was fun.
Brian, what do you make of the popularity of Vocaloid, like Hatsune Miku and stuff like that? Because that is a really interesting thing that exists. It's the idea of a singer who is a digitized voice. Like, what's your knee-jerk reaction to the existence of Hatsune Miku?
I think there's two sides to the story. I think number one, I mean, it's like anything, you know, talent is talent, so keep it raw. And the other point is the other side of it is that, hey, listen, these days we can do anything, and but it loses a bit of the human element, I would say. And but I still think, hey, let's move with the times. Let's make it happen. And if it makes it interesting, then let's do it. So I think you're going to hit two different kinds of audiences. You're going to hit some people that are going to be totally opposed to it, and you're going to have other people that are going to say, you know what, I really, really love this interaction. Because, you know, you've been in Japan, the amount of interaction between people is limited. And I think that they feel very comfortable with, you know, dealing more with characters or dealing more with anything. I remember one time I did a voice for a robot, and it was, I got to be careful what I say this. It was one of the this was going back 10 years ago. This was one of the first robots, call it robot, that I was the voice for. Probably one of the most famous robots that was interactive. It was the first interactive robot, and this was approximately 10 years ago. And we, you know, this part, people were kind of freaking out about that. I thought, this is fascinating. But we've come so far now that you know, it should be normal in everyday life. And I think this is where we've already reached this next phase right now. So to answer your question, I think some will love it, some will not like it. So, you know, some like the old, some like the new, but I think you're gonna get an audience 50-50 anyway on anything that you do. So yeah,
it's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, but there's a lot to look forward to, that's for sure. And I think as far as gaming now, the whole gaming industry as well, you're going to see a lot more changes. You're going to see a lot more of the retro, because some people really, really like the way, for example, you know, to me, Monkey Ball could have actually been made last month. You know, there's still some of that you know, quirkiness, and there's still some of that fun and everything like that. And so you think 19 years have passed, but
it's still fun today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's still a fun game. It's still, like I said, look at the characters. I mean, you know, 19 years ago, really, has anything changed that much? A fun fact: some of the characters they did take from the '80s, from that I told you, that discotheque in discotheque. That's what they called it, Velfare in Roppongi. They had the feathers, and just, it was really kind of camp in the colors, and these big fat characters, and bizarre big eyelashes and big lips and everything like that, which is basically what we have every day now, and but it was just so amazing that the minds that were, I don't know, to me they were forward thinkers. You think about it, 18 years ago with Monkey Ball, some of those characters, I mean, look like some human beings that we see today walking around on the street.
Yeah.
So it's magical. I think it's such a great foresight to see this.
I think that the Monkey Ball characters have also like a timeless quality, that they will always be cute and appealing.
Yes.
Like the same, like that. It's like a Hello Kitty situation where they just hit on something special, and it's just as appealing today as it was then.
Yeah, Hello Kitty is popular as ever. I mean, theme parks, hotels. I mean, Hello Kitty, boy, that kitty cat knew how to work it, that's for sure. I mean, Sanrio, that actually owns rights to Hello Kitty. You're right, it's timeless. People don't. Some things are just not meant to change. People don't want them to change.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it, though, isn't it? That's what they really, really love. They don't want change. And you know what? I've kind of learned. It's interesting. I travel a lot. I'm in Europe a lot and things like that. And there's certain places. And one thing I've come to realize is that, why do we have to change? We don't have to change. Everything is fine just the way it is. So if it's fine, then why do we have to change? And I'm in Austria a lot, actually, in Wien, near my grandparents' place, and in Vienna, sorry. And I look, and there's some things that are just classics, and going back to 40 years or something like that of a coffee shop across from the Opera House or something like that, and I'm like, it's an institution, and you go there and you look at it, and people are like, don't you dare change a thing. We don't want anything to change like that. And you know what? It's probably still as beautiful and still as exciting and still as modern as it was at that time. And they don't. I said, well, why don't you, change things a bit around here? I mean, it's like, we don't have to change. We don't want to change. Why? Because we don't need to change. People like it just the way that it is. So this idea of being timeless, when it comes to Monkey Ball or anything like this, some things were just not meant to be touched. Leave it.
They got it right on the first one with Monkey Ball, I think. Like, that was an example of just all the right people, the exact right team, right place, right time, made something that is like just immortal in what's appealing about it for a certain group of people.
I think for actually a larger group of people than what you'd think. I'm thinking of even some of these cafes and stuff like that in Vienna that were, I don't know, maybe even 60, 70 years old or something like that. And, there's people from all over the world, and teens from 10 to 90. You see a woman that's dressed up so nice at 90. You see, kids that are 15, 16 that are there that are just loving this. And so I think you could bring it all together, and they don't want it to change. Nobody wanted certain things to change. And I think that's going to go with video games as well. Pac-Man will always be Pac-Man. And Monkey Ball will always be Monkey Ball. And a lot of these games don't mess with perfection. When you've got it right the first time, leave it alone.
I mean, I would say that the later... all the 16 years of mediocre Monkey Ball games were all stemming from them messing with that perfection. Like, the Monkey Ball games that followed the ones you worked on they added the ability to jump, for example, or they added they would start copying other games like Peggle and stuff. Like, they lost sight, I think, of what was magical about Monkey Ball, and I would love nothing more than to see Sega bring it back, and I hope you end up being a part of that. That would be really cool. Well, Brent, thank you so much. It's so funny. I just sat down to like stream a little bit of Monkey Ball, and then I saw you show up in the chat and asked if you wanted to Skype, and it was a very cool, unexpected, impromptu interview. I'm glad we got the chance to speak.
Isn't that the cornerstone of our relationship, though, of how we first met? I mean, the Skype, I didn't even know that. I thought we were just chatting as two friends, as someone that was, someone's interested in something that was done back in, 2001.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's an incredible, it's this crazy series of things that have led to us chatting and getting to know each other, but it's been a pleasure. I think that
now we end up doing like a Joe Rogan podcast. This is like
yeah. If I ever move to Japan, I think you and I need to have a Joe Rogan style podcast. That I mean, if this stream is any indication, there's a lot of people who would love for us to do a Joe Rogan podcast.
Well, the great thing is that, like I said, you've kind of brought me out of my robot mode of doing work, and you've actually made me think of all of these. I haven't thought of Vigo, or I haven't thought of Yakuza, or any of these things for many, many years. I mean, you really stimulated a lot of old memories. I mean, you make me think of this whole reading some of these comments. I'm trying not to look at these comments because they're just too funny. You got a really funny following.
I agree. I mean, the Joe Rogan Experience does have that little monkey noise that he plays at the beginning, so it would be perfect for our podcast too.
But honestly, that's it's the stories and everything, the adventures and all of these things that you think that. They all happened, and they're all still alive and well and everything, and all the characters. I mean, Vigo's still around, Ishibashi-san still around, Nakatani-san still around, Yamaguchi-san. All these people are still around and everything like that. And these things really, really happened, and they're still as important today as they were 15, 20 years ago. And it's I think when you come to Japan, and I'm sure you're going to find another excuse to come to Japan.
Something tells me I will.
I think you'll have another a calling, we'll call it, and then something will come up, and you're like, oh, I got to find the answer to that. Put on your detective hat, and off you go, and cap, and off you go, and you're going to be back in Japan again, trying to solve another mystery. There's a lot on the surface, and then when you even go beneath, you don't realize that you're actually underwater, or you are beneath the surface, and it really is a bizarre culture. And I think the quirkiness and the insanity of here, things, trust me, there's a lot of living here versus visiting here. There's a lot of things that you would just shake your head and say, what the like, what's going on here? Like, how could this make any sense whatsoever? This is so draconian law. I mean, this makes no sense whatsoever. But that basically is Japan. I mean, you're never going to be able to. I mean, they can't figure it out themselves. I mean, I can't figure it out either. After so many decades, you just kind of look at the place and you think, wow. This is a place of, if I see LSD one more time on your screen,
I don't know how that started, but
I don't know.
That's the nature. Sometimes people just start typing the same letter over and over, and you'll see that.
Maybe they got stuck, huh? But it reminds me basically of Hello Kitty, probably what Hello Kitty would be like on LSD. Yeah, basically. Yeah. But that basically is Japan. I mean, Japan is just so. Is such a mind game as well, and I think that going back to the States and going to Canada and stuff like that, I kind of feel like sometimes I am an animation character, when I go through the airport or stuff like that. It's like, dude, how long have you been gone?
Yeah, it's I think coming back has got to be the most surreal part. I do have to wrap up here in a second, but I was just talking to some friends who live in Japan who've only been living there for maybe two years or so, and
nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing. But she was telling me that even in the short time, like when she goes back to California, it's little things like the packaging on everything is drastically worse in America. Just like small things like that are a tough part. Like it would almost make me scared of moving there, because coming back to America, I just going into 7-Eleven here. Oh my god, Brian. I had some Japanese friends come to LA for the first time, and I was like texting them like, hey, where do you want to meet up? They were playing a show in Los Angeles, and they're like, let's meet at the 7-Eleven. And I was like, I don't think 7-Eleven here is exactly what you want. But they went to the 7-Eleven and they insisted on getting some sushi. And 7-Eleven sushi in Los Angeles is
send you to the hospital.
It might kill you. And they just, I mean, as these are some of the most polite people I've ever met in my life, these friends of mine, this group of friends, and one of the dudes who's pretty quiet put some of this 7-Eleven sushi in his mouth and was like, just the face he made, he couldn't hide the disgust. He was not down.
Yeah.
It was really something.
I had one friend come from Hawaii that visited here, flew in for like 3 days for, he actually had a meeting. And so anyways, like, oh my God, so where'd you have dinner tonight? He goes, oh, it's 7-Eleven. I'm like, I mean, 7-Eleven is like basically, in most countries, it's considered 5-star dining. It's amazing how... It's
crazy. I'm ashamed to admit the percentage of my meals, quote unquote meals, that happen in a konbini, like in a Lawson or a Famimart, like a 7-Eleven tuna mayo onigiri is like an almost daily thing for me. And I've learned from speaking to Japanese people that like that's not normal. Like that's supposed to be in a pinch, right? You're not supposed to go eat konbini food every day because it's like the one way you can actually manage to gain weight in Japan is by just binge eating konbini food. But I embarrassingly have done that a lot in my... If I ever moved there, I would have to rethink my relationship with snack food.
No, actually, yeah, you can. They've turned it healthy now. I mean, they've got it right now. This is your 24 hours convenience and 24 hours of, you want your edamame or you want your green beans. Or
there's natural Lawson, which is just Lawson, but it's like the Whole Foods version of Lawson.
Yes. I mean, it's some healthier food than what you see in most organic restaurants in the States. I mean,
Very true.
It's amazing.
Very true. Well, Brian, it was a real pleasure chatting with you. Thank you for this impromptu little chat. It was a blast. And if people want to keep up with you, I know you have a... Oh, say that again?
It's the story of our lives. It's impromptu act all the time.
Totally. If people want to keep up with you, I know you just uploaded a video to your YouTube channel yesterday or the day before. Is that the best way for people to keep up with you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm going to try to shoot that one on Friday for you in the studio, just to let people. I didn't know there was such a great interest of what people want to know what it's like to do narration work, to do recordings in a studio in Japan. But like I said, it seems like it's just a normal thing for. I guess it's not normal. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to upload it. Sorry, it's going to be really raw. The other day I was running off to work and I had a narration on that day, and I was just like, oh shit, I should just like kind of popped it. There was no editing, there was nothing. It was just like, you just boom, shoot it, and then upload it, and that was it. So I apologize for that. The quality was pathetic, but yeah, it's just fascinating. It's you're gonna have to get back to Japan again and go a little bit even deeper into the. I
always try. For people watching this live or people watching the replay, I'll be posting a link to Brian Matt's YouTube channel in the chat. So if you want to see it, it's Brian Matt Tokyo is the name of the YouTube channel if you'd like to see some of his uploads. But yeah, Brian, thank you so much for chatting. This was really fun, and yeah, have a good afternoon or morning.
I will, and all the best, and thank you all for your. I hadn't been able to see all the comments, but I'll perhaps today afterwards I'll take a look at them.
Good luck.
But,
there's probably 15,000 of them because they're going live.
I guess I won't be doing that today then.
Yeah. Have a good one, Brian. Great talking to you.
Okay. Thank you. You have a good day. Sayonara.
Sayonara.
Okay, done. Bye. Bye.
That was a blast. All right. Well, I do actually have to run. But yeah, subscribe to Brian's channel. Shout out to Brian Matt, the MVP, and look forward to the Nick Robinson, Brian Matt, Joe Rogan experience launching in January 2020. Have a good Tuesday.